Hello, once again, everybody, and thank you for joining us on another edition of the Jboy Show. Today, we got a big one for you. Former basketball coach and ESPN and SEC Network analyst Jimmy Dykes is going to join us. Really excited about getting him here. We're going to talk some SEC hoops, going to talk some Auburn hoops, really some just hoops in general, and also about his new book, The Film Doesn't Lie. Jimmy's a guy that has worn many hats. He was an assistant men's basketball coach at Arkansas, at Kentucky, at many other places. He was also the head basketball coach for the Arkansas women's team. And to round it out, he was the athletic director at Shiloh Christian. So, should be a really good interview. We're going to go in depth with him. He's going to talk to us, like I said, about Auburn and the SEC in general. And again, appreciate you guys joining us. Remember, if you're brand new to us, all right, you can find us on Twitter at The Jboy Show. We're on Facebook. Just type in Jake Crane. We also have a page, The Jboy Show, on there. We're on YouTube at The Jboy Show. On Instagram, we need to get some more Instagram followers. So if you're on Instagram, follow us. It's DAJBOY Show. The Jboy Show. So again, y'all guys make it what it is. Number one in Apple Podcasts and sporting news. Got to keep on going. This is another episode of Jboy. Let's get it. All right, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Jboy Show. We are unbelievably excited to get a guy I'm sure all of you have seen on TV, have heard about, have heard his detailed basketball analysis. And that's a current ESPN analyst and former coach Jimmy Dykes. Jimmy, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Hey, Jay, it's good to be on with you. I appreciate you calling me and look forward to visiting with you here for a few minutes.
Definitely. Well, obviously everybody, like I said, probably knows who you are. And you just have a book that I know is probably doing pretty well. You want to talk about your book, The Film Doesn't Lie. It's I'm going to read it this next week.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. It's it's been out now since about the 1st of March.
Mm-hmm.
It was released during the week of the SEC tournament, and it's done really well considering the majority of the bookstores across the country have been closed the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's a weird deal.
The online sales has gone tremendously well. It's a book that I took a couple of off seasons to write. It's just a book that I know was laid on my heart, that God laid that vision in front of me, and I took the time to write it and wasn't for sure exactly where it was going to go when I first started with it, but I was very, very blessed to have just great contributions from a lot of coaches across the country, just a lot of different people, stories they've shared with me through my times at ESPN and coaching some as well. And it's a book that I think it really resonates with people that enjoy sports, but more importantly, they're pursuing a more authentic, deeper walk with God. You want to know Him better, and the obedience and accountability that goes along with that. So my good buddy Gus Malzahn was very kind to not only write just a nice paragraph about me in the beginning of the book, but he's actually one of the paragraphs in there is very heavy Gus Malzahn dominated for our time together back in Arkansas, and one of the lessons of our life together. So I think it's a ton of books being sold right now, I think, in anticipation of Father's Day coming up.
Yep, that's a good point.
And most people are buying those books directly off my website at coachjimmydykes.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only place you can buy one that gets a personal note and a signature from me, and we're getting those out in plenty of time for Father's Day. So I appreciate you asking about it, and we can talk some more about it because it covers a lot of topics I think all of us deal with, think about, struggle with, want to improve on, pray about, all those things. It's a challenging book, but I know it's changing people's hearts across the country.
Yeah, and again, it's a must read, and I know our audience, they'll probably go on right after they hear this podcast. So again, all the success to you. I know it's going to continue doing really well, especially with Father's Day coming up. Now, when I was looking at kind of your bio, and obviously I'd known a little bit about you. I was thinking to myself, this is a guy that's worn some hats. I mean, you coached, at a very high level in the men's game, at the highest level in the women's game. You were an athletic director, and now you're in media working for ESPN. You're kind of like James Bond to me a little bit. You can kind of be anything you need to be, and that's a great tool to have. Can you just talk about what it's like being able to do all those things and just kind of the experience of being able to see the whole thing?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique life that I've had. Honestly, It's because I coached in college basketball for 7 or 8 years after I played for Eddie Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
And then that got me into scouting in the NBA, which then got me into working for ESPN. At the same time I started with ESPN, I was also high school athletic director in Arkansas, where I hired Gus Malzahn as my football coach.
That's crazy.
And I've worn a lot of hats. All of them seem tied to athletics for the most part.
Yep.
I love my days of coaching. I absolutely love my job at ESPN. The company's been so good to me over the years. I'm very blessed and fortunate that the majority of my work comes in the Southeastern Conference.
Yep.
And got to be really good friends with the majority of the head coaches in that league. And I've loved covering Auburn basketball, and especially Bruce Pearl since his time at Tennessee. I've known him really well. And so my life has been very blessed, and it's always been highs. I've had a lot of highs. I've had lows as well, like everybody else. But I think I've also learned to love and trust a God that I know has a plan for my life, has a path for me. If I continue to trust in Him and believe that even when things don't go my way, good things are going to come out of it. And He's certainly shown that to me. And so it's I'm now live in Arkansas. We'll be married now 18 years in the fall. We have a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old dog. And it's an off season like everybody else right now, just trying to make it unnormal normal in our lifestyle,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think, everybody kind of has their own version of that. And man, a question that I've just been honestly kind of chomping at the bit to ask you, because I coached college football for 9 years, and being a guy that has coached, you played and you coached, and now you're able to, watch the game and analyze it, for ESPN and the SEC network. How different is it? Do you ever catch yourself when you're analyzing a game, kind of watching it like a coach? Do you have to watch it a different way than you did as a coach? Because, as well as I do, sometimes you do have to try and narrow your focus a little bit when you're watching it as a coach. Does that ever happen to you on air? Is that a big deal at all?
Well, I think my coaching background, Jay, has helped me as an analyst, because I do see the game as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a coach, you got so many thoughts just flying at you every play, every minute of every game.
Yep.
And the game kind of slows down after a while, and you get to see a lot of things. And so I know my coaching background has really progressed my career at ESPN as an analyst. But at the same time, you have to keep a big picture in mind while you're on a national broadcast.
Yep.
I think it's probably one of the bigger challenges for all of us during the season. Is I'm always very confident going into a game that I'm going to know these two teams because of preparation that I've done, all the film study, phone calls, watching practices.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the most challenging part of our job at ESPN is to stay up with the entire landscape of college basketball.
Yeah.
So we can talk about those top 25 teams within our own game and make sure we know players nationwide and the news going on across the board. But just when I'm calling a game, I really watch it through the eyes of a coach and try to make sure that I communicate it in a way that everybody can understand it. My mom watches every game. She's 84 and doesn't get real deep into the X's and O's of the game. I have some buddies of mine that are college coaches that, man, that's all they care about, the X's and O's of the game.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to speak to both audiences.
Yeah. That's a great point. And again, I'm not just saying this because you're on here. I think you're very effective at that. And all you guys at ESPN, y'all do a really good job in the SEC network. Obviously, this audience is very familiar with that. Now kind of narrowing the focus a little bit, onto the SEC. Can you just kind of talk about, since you're a guy that has covered it for so long and seen it and been around it, just the growth of not only the level of competition in the SEC, but you look around at the coaching staffs now with the SEC, and it's as good as it's ever been, in my opinion. Can you just talk about just how far the SEC's come in a relatively short period of time?
Yeah, I think it started with Mike Slive, and then Greg Sankey has taken that lead and expanded on it. And then I think it's the emphasis that the league decided overall to put on men's basketball with the scheduling parameters they gave them to work with, making sure they were invested in the facilities. And then certainly the quality of hire has just been outstanding in that league over the last 5 or 6 years. And you look across the board right now at all 14 schools, man, those are top level, high level, really, really good coaches.
And it's tough to find a bad one. It's tough to find a bad one.
No, you can't find one. And it starts with the coaching, and then the second most important thing is the level of player that the league is bringing in. And for 2 or 3 years in a row now, that league, the SEC, has brought in as many or more top 100 high school recruits than any other league out there. So that combination of commitment from the leadership up top to the head coaches, the quality of them, and then the level of talent that they're bringing in and future pros is what's made SEC basketball probably at its highest moment right now over the last 3 or 4 years.
I agree with you 100%. And really, sticking in the SEC and talking about Auburn, obviously everybody knows the job that Bruce Pearl has done, taking Auburn from, basically a perennial, cellar dweller to prominence. My question for you, and I think a lot of Auburn fans, this is the main question, is can Auburn become a perennial power in basketball, every year with Bruce Pearl?
I think they're on that track, and they were playing really good basketball at the end of the year. I could have made a strong case for them being one of the heavy favorites to win that SEC tournament in Nashville had we played it.
Yep.
And they're, he lost a ton off of this year's team. The last 2 years have been really a special group. And so now he's in a really rebuilding mode there for this upcoming season. But you guys know Bruce as well as I do. He's always won.
Yeah.
You go back to his days at Milwaukee and Tennessee, like he wins. And he knows how to put a program together. He knows how to bring guys in that fit his style and fit his system. And there's great value in that. He doesn't miss in recruiting.
Yeah.
He finds guys that are going to play the kind of ball he wants to play. And that's not as common as you think. You can miss in areas like that. And Bruce, to me, he doesn't miss, man. He finds guys that fit his system. So I think as long as you have Bruce Pearl as your head coach, Auburn's not going away. They're in the fight right now every year for that SEC title. And there's no back down in that program, starting from the head coach all the way down through those players now. There is zero fear when Auburn plays Kentucky or Florida or LSU or Arkansas, or just keep on going down the line. And that all started with just the extreme makeover that Bruce has done with that program. And now there's great belief. There's 100% belief in that program, from Bruce to the players to the fans. And that's how you go head to head with the Blue Bloods, not only on the floor, but in recruiting. And right now you're seeing a ton of recruits. It seems like a lot of times I'm reading the final five are Kentucky, Michigan State, North Carolina, Duke, and Auburn.
Yeah, that's what blows my mind, to be honest with you.
And this tells you where Bruce has that program.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And again, Coach, you've been in, God, Lord knows how many arenas, throughout your career doing all that you've done. I would love to just hear what your thoughts on where Auburn Arena stacks up when it's as big as it can get, when game days, here it's Auburn and Kentucky, in the big games you've been to. Where does Auburn Arena compare in the lexicon of arenas that you've ventured to throughout your career?
Well, I compare it on normal conference game nights, because college game day, everyone packs the arena.
That's true. That's a great point.
And everyone turns out. So I look at that arena right now. I did games there this year. I think I had a non-conference game against NC State there this year. I came back a couple of times for the Georgia game and maybe Florida. I don't know. But I remember tweeting at some point during the year that there's not a better student section. Not better.
Yeah.
There's not a better student section right now than what Auburn has. And it's the perfect size arena. It seems like the thing is always full. The noise can't escape. Like, to me, it's as good of a home court advantage as any team in the country has.
Yeah.
Now some are bigger, some are different, but there's none better. And that's phenomenal to think about that Auburn is in that conversation in my mind. And I see them all. I don't just do games in the SEC. I do games all across the country, and I've seen them all, from Allen Fieldhouse to Pauley Pavilion to the Dean Dome to Cameron Indoor. And on game night, when that place is happening, it's as good of an atmosphere as we have right now in college basketball. And that's a pretty big statement considering where Auburn has been on that list over the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. Auburn would not be in that conversation, and now they're right there at the top of the conversation.
Yeah. It has been a kind of a meteoric rise, and it's something that, like you brought up, now Auburn fans, expect not only to make the NCAA tournament, which used to be a pipe dream, but to make a run in the NCAA tournament. And now kind of opening the scope of the SEC a little bit, again, assuming all goes well, which, hopefully it will, is there a team that you kind of see in the SEC right now kind of creeping up and surprising some people next year? Or do you think it's going to be, your typical, 3 to 5 team race?
Well, it's still so early.
I know it's early. I know it's really early.
All that. But to answer your question, Arkansas is sitting there going to be sneaky good.
They are.
Muscleman's done a great job of bringing in transfers, having a couple of kids sitting out. He's did a good job in the grad transfer market this year. I know the level of talent that they have coming back, and they're not going to start off as a top 25 or 30 team. They're going to end up there, I think. It's not a surprise. Tennessee is going to be really, really good. I'm going to pick them to win the league if everything stays the same between now and whenever we cast that vote, because what they have coming back, the players that they brought in and the transfers, and the culture there at Tennessee is as good as we have in the SEC. Certainly Kentucky will be in the conversation again. Florida's got a lot of dudes returning. But that league there's, with the exception of Vanderbilt, which I think is still just maybe a step below everybody else.
Yeah.
The fact that they've lost their 2 best players back-to-back years is just crazy to figure that out. But, man, I don't know where you draw the line between the 11th best team and the 3rd best team right now looking next year. And I think that speaks volumes of where the league is. But if there's a surprise team that's kind of sitting there off the radar right now nationally, when you talk SEC, most people that cover the sport from a national basis, they're going to talk about Kentucky, they're going to talk about Tennessee, they're going to talk about Florida. There's not going to be a lot of mentions, though, about Arkansas, and I think Texas A&M could be right there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, and you look at, I think there's some similarities actually to be drawn between Muscleman and Pearl, and really, if you look at, if you're going off straight, in-game antics / passion meter with Buzz Williams at Texas A&M too. Did you kind of see some similarities in the way those guys conduct themselves and just, they're kind of no holds bars. This is who I am. And I'm going to, let the motor ride.
Well, I think they all know that they have to be themselves, know, and there's Muscleman is outstanding on social media. Like he gets it. He's really raising the bar in terms of the creativity and how he goes about things in that area, and wearing the golf polo shirt to coach in. Like he's a trendy, he's on the trend, and that's, kids like that stuff. But Buzz is the same way. Bruce is the same way. Those guys are different. They are who they are. They're comfortable in their skin. They're comfortable how they present themselves, the energy they coach with, how they talk and communicate with their guys. Like it's just they're just a little bit different, just a little bit outside the box. But that's what makes them who they are. And if you're gonna try to battle the all-time winningest program in college basketball, Kentucky being in your league, you have to have a head coach that has a ton of confidence in every area. And that's the other thing about the hires in this league. You've hired guys that have great confidence, man, in who they are and how they go about it. And Bruce and Muscleman and Buzz, they're right there at the top in that conversation.
Yeah, and again, it's something where everybody can just turn a game on and you can kind of see it oozing out of them, and it's genuine. You can tell it's not an act, it's not fake, it's genuine, and the kids can tell it's genuine, because if anybody can sense a fake person, it's an 18 to 20-year-old kid. So, but kind of there's a question obviously that's bouncing around right now with all this G League stuff. What are your kind of general thoughts on the G League swooping in? Obviously we live in a capitalistic society, and it's but the NCAA is going to have to combat it somehow. I mean, what do you see happening? Just, do you hear anything? Like where are you at with it?
Well, I think college coaches now are recruiting against other colleges and the G League. Yeah. And you see kids that are announcing their Final Five being 4 schools and the G League as an option. Now, that's not an option for 90% of high school seniors, but it is for maybe the 10% in that top 100 class. The G League's not dumb. They're not going to build that thing on guys that can't play and can't help the league and all that. So it is going to be a very viable option for those top level kids. And, some kids are seeing great value in it. They're seeing the money increase. They're seeing the chance to be a full-time professional chasing my craft way of doing it. So you can't fault them for doing it. Everybody takes a different path in life. And some kids and some families will choose that path. And I wish them the best. But there's no guaranteed success in the G League, like there's no guaranteed success at the highest level in the SEC. Just because you go to the G League doesn't mean you're automatic. You're up against grown men in a lot of ways that have been in the league. They're not going to give their spot up. It's a grown man's league with a lot of tough travel, and that's a different deal. So I think we're all anxious to see how it kind of plays out and how well those kids do that go straight to the G League, and where are they in 3 or 4 years compared to the kids that took the more traditional route of 1 or 2 years in college ball. So there's a lot for us to keep our eyes on, but I'm never going to fault someone for making a decision that's based upon what they think is their best path to where they ultimately want to be. And if that's the G League for some of those kids, man, I wish them nothing but the best of success. I've never watched a G League game in my life. I'm not going to watch one next year.
Me either, man. I'm not going to lie either.
No matter who goes to the G League out of high school, I'm not going to watch them because I don't know them.
They could play a G League game right next door, and I probably wouldn't go. To be honest with you,
we get to know those kids because they come to college and they establish their brand and their name and all that. Zion Williamson, how many of us knew him? April of his senior year in high school. Very, very few people ever even had heard his name before.
Yeah.
But he goes to Duke. He's on national TV 30 times a year, and he's on Sports Center and all the excitement that goes with it. Bam, and he just his brand is just it's times 100.
Yeah.
Does he have the same effect as if he goes straight to the G League? I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Yeah. No, and again, that's a good way to look at it. They are two very stark different paths. But really, last question. Then I want to ask you. Finish up with a question about your book, Jimmy. Do you see a world maybe in the near future where the Southeastern Conference is the premier basketball conference in the country?
Well, I think they're trying. That's hard to do and that's hard to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you base it off of the league that gets the most NCAA tournament representatives in? Do you base it upon the biggest TV contract? Do you base it upon Final Fours? But I know they've made a ton of strides. I do know that. I do know this is not going to fade away because I believe in those coaches. I believe in the commitment of basketball in that league from top to bottom. And I know right now they don't have to feel like they're on second fiddle to anybody. The ACC, the Big Ten, the Big East, Big 12, just keep on going. It's as good of a league as we have. And you can argue all you want over who's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in what order. I just know the SEC is as good of a basketball league as our country has, from how easy it is to watch, the size of the crowds, to the different styles of play, to the postseason success, to the Hall of Fame coaches, the Final Fours that have been won by coaches in the league. All the things are there to say it's as good of a league as we have in the country, and really that's about all you could ask.
Exactly right. And in closing, obviously, we kind of talked about your book, The Film Doesn't Lie, at the beginning of the podcast. I know there's probably a lot of people in our audience that are starving for a good new book to read. If there was really, kind of one message, I know you have a lot in there, but one kind of overriding theme that you would want people to know about your book before they went and got it, what would it be?
Well, it's a challenging book. It's an easy book to read. I didn't have a ghostwriter. I wrote every single word in that book.
Nice.
So it's an easy read, but it's a challenging read, an entertaining read, but challenging from the standpoint that everyone that I've heard from about this book says at some point in that book, they just stopped and searched their heart about the topic that I was talking about, and really found lasting change in their life in that area. And if you're a person that, again, you like sports and you're kind of drawn to those type of conversations, and you're a person that's, maybe searching in life, or you have a strong walk with God right now, and you're just looking for a deeper, more authentic walk, and a book that'll change your heart, I know this is it. Not because I wrote it, but because of the responses I continue to get about it across the country. I think it's a beautiful gift for any father out there of any age. And again, if the only place you can get an autographed copy from me with a personal note is to order it right off of our website, CoachJimmyDykes.com. Those people that are running that website for me, they do a great job of getting those books to me, getting me signing them, getting them out quickly. And I think if they get them ordered here off that website in the next 7 or 8 days, they should certainly have them for Father's Day. But I know no father would be disappointed in it at all. And I think it would really speak to their heart. And that's, to me, that's what a good book does.
Definitely. And again, I'm sure a lot of our audience will go get a copy. Now, I do have to tell the story before I let you go, just because probably, I don't consider myself a dumb person, but when I reached out, this is how good of a person Jimmy Dykes is, everybody. So I reach out to Jimmy Dykes about getting him to come on the podcast, and he responds, pretty quickly to me. I really appreciated that. And he's like, give me a date and time. So I'm so excited to get Jimmy Dykes on the show that I just think, okay, what's the first time I can get him next week? And I say, how about next Monday? Well, a couple hours goes by, and then I get an email back that says, man, I don't think Monday's going to work. That's Memorial Day. And to be honest with you, Jimmy, I felt about 2 feet tall, man.
Oh, man, don't worry about that. That's an easy mistake these days, because you know what? You're like me. You and I are talking right now. I don't know if it's Wednesday, Thursday,
or Friday. Right.
Like we all lost track of it, right? We have no idea what day it is.
That's 100% correct. I had to tell that story. I had to get that off my chest. But again, Jimmy, man, I really do appreciate you coming. Guys, go to CoachJimmyDykes.com. Get that book. I'm going to get it to you probably as soon as we get off the phone. But again, I appreciate you stopping by, and would love to get you on again, before the season, once everything gets cranking, if you don't mind.
Man, you got my number now. You stay in touch with me, and I'll do it for sure, Jay. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, no problem. Man, good luck, and we'll be talking to you soon. I appreciate you, and be safe out there.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
All right. Guys, that was Jimmy Dykes. Unbelievable guy. Again, I know I've said it a bunch. Go get his book. He's a real genuine person. He didn't have to come on here, and he did. But again, that's another episode of the Jboy Show with ESPN's own Jimmy Dykes. We're making it, people. All right. It's Jboy. And Jboy is out of here.